Whether they like it or not, they're never getting rid of me.
Pedro Pascal's power grab has pushed Marvel's Fantastic Four 2 cast to the brink, forcing Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and others to walk away in protest.
He won't leave me alone.
Rumors of power plays and explosive confrontations swirl behind the scenes. What shocking demand from Pascal triggered this unprecedented Hollywood standoff? Let's find out. The breaking point, when everything fell apart. We're not his puppets. That's the explosive phrase insiders are using after what's shaping up to be the biggest Marvel meltdown in years. The entire cast of Fantastic Four 2, yes, all of them, have reportedly walked out, leaving Marvel executives scrambling, and the finger of blame points squarely at Pedro Pascal, the man who was supposed to be the shining centerpiece of this reboot.
It's been a dream to join the MCU. The movie is called The Fantastic Four. I'll confess, I did all my stretching for real.
Rumors are swirling that Pedro didn't just want to play Reed Richards. He wanted to rewrite Reed Richards, reshape the tone of the film, and force his own brand of socially conscious storytelling into every corner of the script. According to multiple insiders, Pascal's sudden bid for creative control left his co-stars, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach, completely blindsided. "We signed on to play superheroes, not to be props in Pedro's one-man show," a source close to the production allegedly revealed. The situation has become so volatile that Marvel Studios executives are, quite literally, in panic mode. One crew member described the atmosphere on set as walking on eggshells every single day because of Pedro's unpredictable mood swings and insistence on artistic authority over storylines and character arcs that have been in development for years. And here's the wildest part. This cast coup didn't just come out of nowhere. Behind the smiles and press junkets, tension has been brewing for months. In a now infamous junket interview, Joseph Quinn jokingly admitted that Pedro could be a little overbearing, quipping,
"He won't leave me alone."
What sounded like lighthearted banter may have actually been a clue about just how intense the behind-the-scenes power struggle was becoming. If true, this behavior would line up with Pascal's history of making bold political and social statements. In a recent interview, he bluntly declared,
I play complicated men and speak up for real causes. If that makes me polarizing, good. It means I'm doing more than acting.
It's clear he sees himself as more than just a performer, and that might be part of the problem, but that's just the surface. The most shocking part of this story hasn't even come out yet. We have sources hinting that Vanessa Kirby, who was once Pedro's biggest supporter, may have been the one who rallied the cast to take a stand. Vanessa felt like the set had turned into a dictatorship, one alleged insider explained. She wanted a team effort, but Pedro was making it impossible. Even during press tours, subtle signs of friction have emerged. In one chaotic group interview, Vanessa looked visibly annoyed when Pedro kept dominating the conversation. In contrast, Joseph Quinn and Ebon Moss-Bachrach exchanged knowing glances as if to say, here he goes again. And when asked who the natural leader of the group was, Joseph laughed nervously before saying,
"He's a wonderful man, and I'm very lucky to be able to do this next project with him. He's a funny man. He's a silly man."
The tone was polite, but fans online were quick to pick up on the awkward energy. The bigger question is why Marvel didn't see this coming. Pascal's reputation as an unpredictable figure has been well documented. During the Mandalorian controversy involving Gina Carano, Pedro was accused of being selectively outspoken. Critics slammed him for not defending his co-star, even while using his platform to push other social and political views. This is a man who has been called Hollywood's darling and Hollywood's problem all in one. And now Marvel is facing the fallout. Studio executives are reportedly holding emergency meetings to decide if they can salvage the film, or if they'll need to pull off a casting overhaul just months before filming was set to ramp up. Think about how massive that is. We're talking about a $200 million tentpole film that could now be in danger because one actor refused to stay in his lane. What's even more infuriating is the irony of Pedro's public image. He's often praised as humble and for the people, yet crew members describe a completely different version of him on set, a man obsessed with controlling every detail, every scene, every narrative beat. And if the cast's dramatic walkout is any indication, they're done playing along with his self-styled persona. And let's not forget, Pedro himself recently joked in an interview,
Whether they like it or not, they're never getting rid of me.
Could that have been less of a joke and more of a chilling foreshadowing? When the cast walked, they weren't subtle about it. According to multiple reports, the decision came after a final heated table read where Pedro commandeered the session, allegedly reworking his own monologue while interrupting other actors' notes and even questioning the director's vision in front of the full crew. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings were held with Disney execs, and there was one question dominating the conversation. How did Pedro Pascal become bigger than the project? Just 5 years ago, Pascal was still seen as the underdog, beloved for his breakout role as Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones, admired for his turn in Narcos, and respected as a working actor who never lost his theatrical roots. But then came the Disney effect. Landing The Mandalorian catapulted him into global stardom, but it wasn't just the fame that changed. According to critics and even former co-stars, co-stars, Pedro Pascal's transformation from actor to brand was fast, calculated, and orchestrated. His rise wasn't just about roles. It was about messaging, whether it was advocating for immigrant rights, openly clashing with J.K. Rowling, or sporting shirts with slogans like "Protect the Dolls," which refers to shielding trans communities. Pedro increasingly used his platform for activist positioning.
I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history.
Now, activism isn't the problem, but what frustrated many around him, and eventually his Fantastic Four co-stars, was the selective application of his values. Case in point, the Gina Carano incident. Carano was fired by Disney after posting a controversial meme. Pedro, meanwhile, had made posts comparing Trump supporters to Nazis and repeatedly shared inflammatory political content on social media. And what happened to him? Nothing. One cast member privately said, "Pedro wanted to be both the star of the film and the film's reason for existing, and none of us signed up for that."
So I'm just getting really sick of seeing these actors and everything, because when I see them now, I'm not seeing the character that they're playing, I'm seeing the actor.
Let's pause for a second. This cast, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Eben Moss-Bachrach, are not known for tabloid drama. They're respected, serious actors. They've worked under intense directors. They've stayed out of headlines. For them to walk together, it means something real happened. It wasn't just Pedro's politics, it was the performative nature of it. As one critic put it bluntly, Pedro Pascal presents himself as a meek, sensitive man, but his behavior often tells a different story. Take his so-called baby girl persona. His PR team has carefully cultivated an image of Pedro as shy, vulnerable, and harmless, someone who cries easily, grips himself during interviews, and just wants everyone to feel safe. But there are cracks in that illusion.
The world is starting to notice Pedro Pascal's pesky habit of inappropriately touching his female colleagues.
Clips have emerged of Pascal invading the personal space of female co-stars, often under the guise of emotional comfort.
Vanessa Kirby, who by the way is engaged and pregnant, was seen basically canoodling with Pedro in front of photographers. Like, you must admit that he's reaching quite low on her hip there.
Even his interactions with Vanessa Kirby have raised eyebrows, especially one moment where he places his hand suspiciously low on her hip during a red carpet appearance. And when questioned, defenders often say the same thing: he's gay. But here's the problem. Pedro Pascal has never confirmed that. In fact, using an assumed identity to excuse boundary-crossing behavior is exactly the kind of double standard he claims to fight against. As one commentator put it, if this were any other man, people would be calling it predatory. But Pedro gets away with it because he plays the empathy card. That's the kind of contradiction that cast members started to notice and resent. It got to the point where even lighthearted promotional interviews became awkward. Watch this moment from the Fantastic Four cast's chaotic group interview.
Yeah. Pedro?
I have to get over his answer. He's gonna have to come back to me.
It plays as a joke, but the hesitation, the tension, it's real. And here's where things really spiral. As word of the cast's departure spread, Pedro, rather than address the concerns privately, allegedly took to Instagram with a passive-aggressive caption that read, "Keep telling the stories, don't let them win." It's a line he's used before.
Keep telling the stories and keep expressing yourself and keep fighting to be who you are. Don't let them win. Don't let them win.
But now, that line feels less like empowerment and more like deflection. Who is them? The cast that left? The studio? The fans who questioned him? Because what's clear now is that Pedro Pascal doesn't want to just be in stories. He wants to own them. And if the people around him don't fall in line, according to his actions, they're expendable. Damage control, inside Marvel's desperate attempt to save the franchise. When the dust settled after the walkout, the silence was deafening. Marvel Studios, a company known for its airtight control over production, press, and cast behavior, suddenly found itself navigating an unprecedented PR nightmare. Not a delayed shoot, not a contract dispute, but a public revolt by an entire A-list cast against the star they had built an entire reboot around, Pedro Pascal. And the worst part? They didn't see it coming, because for Marvel executives, Pedro was the solution, the face of the new MCU, the ideological reset button after years of criticism, declining box office numbers, and accusations of stagnation. Instead, he became the problem.
The world that this movie exists in is everything. It is very intentionally dedicated towards the love that everyone has for the original comics, and that came out in 1961, giving us our first Marvel family, and an era of innocence and optimism that I think is really meant to be protected and held precious, because this is a family that only knows how to save humanity by being a family.
But how did we get from Marvel's next great hope to Marvel's most divisive star in a matter of months? The situation became even more complicated when Pedro started making remarks that appeared to directly question Marvel's authority over creative decisions.
Didn't come at it with any sort of attempt at distinguishing it from previous authorships. I need all of the context and all of the information to spiritually enter into an experience because it's all happened. It's all been seen and done before by many. I want it to all kind of be living in my imagination.
To fans, it came across as a deep commitment to the craft. But to Marvel executives, it sounded like an actor who believed he knew better than the tried and true Marvel formula. Let's go inside the rooms where this mess is being cleaned up. The first red flag came during reshoots for the Fantastic Four, First Step's premiere tour. Pascal was reportedly already clashing with director Matt Shakman over final edits, allegedly demanding that certain scenes be rescored to reflect a more introspective emotional journey. The translation? Pedro didn't think the tone was serious enough. One insider close to post-production claimed he wanted to turn the Fantastic Four into Moonlight. This tension spilled into the press circuit, where Pascal's interviews veered wildly between rehearsed gratitude and bizarre metaphors. Take this moment from the Disney Plus fan event.
I think that they were the first to really nail what it meant to extend yourself for the betterment of others.
Sounds fine on paper, but Marvel execs were reportedly uncomfortable with how often Pascal redirected interviews away from plot or character, and toward vague spiritual platitudes. He spoke less like a man promoting a film, and more like a man preparing to take over the franchise. And then came the most damning discovery, a leaked clause in Pascal's original contract. Sources say Pedro's deal included an unusual creative consultation rider, allowing him informal influence over character development and tone, a clause reportedly inserted by his personal representation, citing his previous collaborative input on The Last of Us. But here's the catch. That clause did not grant him authority over other characters' arcs, nor did it authorize him to make unsolicited adjustments to scene structure without the director's sign-off. And yet, that's exactly what he did. Several documented incidents, now circulating internally at Disney, show Pascal submitting handwritten adjustment pages for key scenes between Sue Storm and Reed Richards, without going through approved channels. One staffer says he tried to rewrite the emotional dynamic of the family, to center entirely around Reed's trauma arc. One producer flat out called it emotional monopolization, disguised as collaboration. Behind the scenes, Marvel was entering panic mode. According to sources at Variety, Kevin Feige himself was looped into an emergency Zoom conference with legal, PR, and creative execs just days after the cast staged their walkout. The agenda? How do we reboot the reboot without admitting we're rebooting the reboot? Because publicly admitting that Fantastic Four 2 was now castless, that would destroy Marvel's fragile momentum, especially after a year of underwhelming box office performance. So the plan, according to internal documents reviewed by leaks aggregator MovieCrypt, was threefold. 1. Delay announcement of the exits by claiming scheduling conflicts due to ongoing industry strikes. 2. Soft launch a new cast via MCU post-credits teasers, using multiverse logic to explain variants of the Fantastic Four. 3. Reposition Pascal as a character actor rather than a franchise lead, still within the MCU, but with no ongoing narrative ownership. That last point? It's important, because while Marvel may not fire Pascal outright, the optics would be too risky. The studio appears ready to quietly sideline him. One executive reportedly said, "We thought we were getting the next RDJ, but what we got was a podcast in a spandex suit."
Just to not offend anybody, in a light blue bodysuit. Light blue doesn't hide a lot. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and I wasn't in very good shape, and I had to whip it into shape.
Just to not offend anybody. Was Pedro referring to his physical appearance, or was he pushing back against Marvel's broader expectations that extended well beyond just getting in shape? Hollywood operates on perception, and the perception now is that Pedro Pascal is high maintenance, politically polarizing, and creatively volatile. Talent agencies are reportedly scrambling to limit his exposure. Publicists are allegedly coaching clients not to speak candidly about their experience with him, which ironically has only fueled speculation. Even Joseph Quinn, known for his measured interviews, couldn't help but throw a little shade when asked about Pedro.
He won't leave me alone.
Cute, right? But it doesn't take a body language expert to see Quinn's discomfort when Pascal's name comes up. Then there's Vanessa Kirby. She was perhaps the most vocal privately about the creative overreach, especially after Pascal allegedly questioned a scene where her character leads the mission without consulting Reed. Sources say Pascal pushed back, suggesting the scene should reflect Reed's internal crisis first. Kirby reportedly flipped out. In a moment described by one crew member as icy and surgical, she allegedly said, "This isn't the Reed Richards movie, and I'm not his his sidekick. The fallout from that confrontation reverberated across the set and may have been the final straw that pushed the cast to walk. So what about Pedro? Well, the man isn't backing down. In fact, his recent press clips suggest he's leaning into the controversy, possibly to paint himself as a misunderstood artist.
If that makes me polarizing, good.
He's also ramped up his usual poetic deflections in interviews.
Keep telling the stories and keep expressing yourself and keep fighting to be who you are.
It's classic Pascal PR, a mix of self-empowerment rhetoric, humble bragging, and vague inspirational quotes. But the damage is done. And for the first time in years, the Pedro Pascal halo is slipping. Because this time, it's not Twitter trolls criticizing his views. It's his own colleagues. It's the people who worked alongside him and decided it just wasn't worth it anymore. And maybe, just maybe, audiences are starting to agree. Pascal fatigue is real. Even his most loyal fans have begun to quietly admit, yeah, he's kind of everywhere, huh? What began as adoration is curdling into something else. Discomfort, saturation, and, for some, outright resentment. He's everywhere, all at once, in every genre, in every discourse, in every argument about masculinity, identity, representation, and narrative ethics. And now, he's in the way. The fallout Pedro Pascal's collapse and the leaks that changed everything. By now, the cracks aren't just visible, they're spreading. Pedro Pascal's image as a charming, empathetic, baby girl-coded fan favorite has been under slow erosion for months. But the walkout of the Fantastic Four 2 cast, that wasn't a crack, it was a cave-in. Because now, the fallout is no longer confined to Marvel boardrooms or press junkets. The industry is turning on Pedro Pascal, quietly, systematically. And, as we've learned from newly emerging whispers inside streaming and film development circles, possibly permanently. But it didn't end with the cast leaving, because someone, and we still don't know who, recorded what's now being called the Pascal meeting. And it's the kind of recording that studios pray never sees the light of day. A leaked internal email reportedly from a Marvel casting coordinator and shared anonymously to Dumois claims that the studio is expecting to recast at least 2 members of the core Fantastic Four before the next slate of promotional material goes out. This was later echoed by a blind item published by Crazy Days and Nights, which stated, "A Marvel man is staying, his family isn't." Translation, Pedro Pascal stays. Everyone else leaves, and we now know why. Because behind Pedro Pascal's emotionally charged interviews, soft-spoken mannerisms, and empathetic leader facade is a man consumed by brand control. Just listen to what he said during this Marvel-sponsored appearance.
This is a family that only knows how to save humanity by being a family, and it's the story of togetherness all around, and that being together, we can save each other.
And yet, off-camera, he became the very force tearing that family apart. We also need to talk about what happened in Los Angeles, just days before the final press conference was scheduled. According to multiple eyewitnesses who worked at the venue, Pascal arrived to a Fantastic Four photo call alone, despite the full cast being listed on the call sheet. Only hours later, Marvel abruptly canceled the shoot, citing scheduling conflicts. But a crew member present said the real story was obvious. He was the only one who showed. Nobody else wanted to be in the room with him. Let's rewind one last time. Shortly before the cast staged their walkout, Marvel Studios allegedly held a final internal alignment session on Zoom. Present were director Matt Shakman, several producers, the 4 lead cast members, and Pedro Pascal himself. It was supposed to be a resolution meeting, a moment of honesty and mutual understanding before heading into final promotional duties and contract renewals. Instead, it became the breaking point. According to 2 sources familiar with the meeting, Pascal spoke for nearly 20 uninterrupted minutes, describing his vision for Fantastic Four not as just a superhero film, but as a narrative vessel for reclaiming familial masculinity in the post-Trump era. Let that sink in.
I didn't come at it with any sort of attempt at distinguishing it from previous authorships. I need all of the context and all of the information to spiritually enter into an experience, because it's all happened. It's all been seen and done before by many. I want it all kind of be living in my imagination.
He described Reed Richards, a fictional scientist with elastic powers, as a reflection of generational guilt, unresolved male intimacy, and intellectual submission. One cast member reportedly mouthed the words, "What is he talking about?" But it didn't stop there. Pedro allegedly proposed a series of tone adjustments that would cut down Johnny Storm's humor to prevent tonal trivialization, add 3 monologues to Reed's internal conflict scenes, and reframe Sue Storm's leadership moments as emotional projections of Reed's fear of abandonment. When Shakman pushed back, noting the film already tested well with audiences, Pedro allegedly responded with, "We're not here to test. We're here to tell the truth." That line, according to multiple sources, was what prompted Joseph Quinn to end the call early, followed by Vanessa Kirby minutes later. By the end of the meeting, the cast had made up their minds. They were done. And then, someone hit record. The Pascal meeting audio has not leaked publicly, yet, but multiple outlets, including Collider, Deadline, and Movie Crypt, have reportedly heard portions of the file from internal Marvel sources. What's in it? Reportedly, Pascal becomes increasingly defensive as the team questions his suggested rewrites.
The world that this movie exists in is everything, especially in its authorship of the characters that we're playing. It is very intentionally dedicated towards the love that everyone has for the original comics, and that came out in 1961, giving us our first Marvel family, and an era of innocence and optimism that I think is really meant to be protected and held precious, because this is a family that only knows how to save humanity by being a family.
The words were perfect. Exactly the kind of media-friendly line Marvel expects from its stars. But behind the scenes, things were already starting to crack. The uncomfortable silences, the exchanged glances, the unspoken tension. Fans didn't catch it at first, but those on set, they felt it immediately. At one point, he allegedly accuses a producer of flattening the emotional core of the film for box office optics. At another, he reportedly raises his voice, saying, "I'm not here to be another action figure. I'm here to change what these movies mean." The audio allegedly also captures a moment where Pascal interrupts Vanessa Kirby mid-sentence after she tries to voice concerns about her character's arc being minimized. His response? "It's not about hierarchy, Vanessa. It's about message." That line, according to Marvel insiders, is the moment everything changed, because it confirmed what the others had suspected all along. Pedro Pascal no longer saw himself as part of an ensemble. He saw himself as the message. Marvel's response? Swift and surgical. According to Variety, the studio immediately restructured Pascal's contract, slashing his promotional duties and suspending any future creative consultation. More importantly, the studio has now reportedly pulled all early concept development on a potential Fantastic Four 3. Instead, they're fast-tracking a variant timeline reboot, what one exec allegedly called the softest of soft reboots, built into the multiverse narrative. That's code for they're pretending this never happened. So where does that leave Pedro Pascal? Cornered, conflicted, and, if sources are to be believed, furious. According to two separate entertainment journalists, Pedro's team has launched an aggressive damage control strategy, urging him to return to center and lay low for the remainder of the year. And Pedro, he's ignoring it. Instead, he's doubling down. His latest public statements continue to lean into misunderstood artist territory.
I play complicated men and speak up for real causes. If that makes me polarizing, good. It means I'm doing more than acting.
His Instagram has been updated with cryptic captions. His Twitter likes show support for threads that accuse Marvel of suffocating creative talent. And yes, he's still wearing his Protect the Dolls shirt at events. But here's the irony. For someone who built his image on softness, on vulnerability, on being the anti-alpha male, Pedro Pascal's downfall is following the exact same script as every egomaniacal Hollywood flameout. And what about the cast? Well, they're thriving. Vanessa Kirby has already lined up a lead role in a new Christopher Nolan project. Joseph Quinn is finalizing a multi-film deal with Warner Brothers, and Eben Moss-Bachrach, always the under-the-radar MVP, is being courted for a dramatic thriller by A24. None of them have spoken publicly about Pascal, and they don't need to. Their silence says everything, because walking away from the MCU, a career-defining opportunity, is not something actors do lightly. It's not protest, it's survival. They saw the red flags, they heard the speeches, they watched the edits, and they made the call. They chose to walk, and history, and fans, may one day thank them. So what does this mean for us, the audience? Well, it means we're witnessing something rare, the unraveling of a Hollywood golden boy in real time. It means the next time you see Pascal on a red carpet, or trending on TikTok, or softly stammering his way through a late-night interview, you might wonder, how much of this is real? How much of this was always PR? And most importantly, what happens when the puppet master tries to pull the wrong strings? Because if there's one thing this cast made crystal clear, they're not his puppets. This is just one of the many behind-the-scenes stories. Hit one of the cards on screen to check out more.
Oh, now they will. The greatest thing that could ever have happened to Marvel was having Disney buy us.
At first, the creators of Marvel's legendary characters seemed thrilled about the merger with Disney. It felt like a dream come true. But over time, that excitement faded. Now, the tone has completely shifted.
Hi, heroes. This is Stan Lee coming at you. Want you to know, Marvel
has always been and always will be a reflection of the world.
The very people who gave life to these heroes are speaking out, sending a loud and clear message. Disrespect will not be tolerated. So what went wrong between Marvel's creators and the House of Mouse? The message that changed everything. Imagine if the most powerful entertainment corporation in the world was finally forced to face its own moral reckoning. It's May 2025, and what started as a grassroots rebellion by grieving families has grown into a movement that's reshaping the entire entertainment industry. These weren't just legal victories, they were declarations of independence from corporate tyranny. The thunderclap moment came when they stood up and said, "Enough!" Every major studio executive in Hollywood felt it. The creator families, armed with nothing but determination and the Copyright Act of 1976, had managed to make Disney, yes, the same Disney that owns ABC, ESPN, and controls almost 40% of the box office market blink. This wasn't David versus Goliath anymore. This was David assembling his own Avengers team.
It's a marriage made in heaven, and with all the power of Disney behind us, well, you see the results. You see movies like The Avengers, Iron Man, they're all tremendous hits.
So it was the luckiest thing in the world that Disney bought Marvel. The settlements of 2023 weren't just legal documents. They were surrender papers from a corporate empire that had finally been forced to acknowledge its creative foundation. When Steve Ditko's estate settled in December 2023 and the other creator estates in June 2023, they didn't just win money. They won something infinitely more valuable, the power to redefine what respect means in the entertainment industry. Let's be crystal clear about what happened here. For decades, Disney operated under a simple principle. We own what we buy, and what we own, we control absolutely. The idea that creators or their families might have ongoing rights was treated as a quaint notion from a bygone era. But these families, these real-life Avengers, proved that the principle was built on quicksand.
Kid, I'm Mickey Mouse. I can do whatever the hell I want.
Won't people think that's a lazy and desperate nostalgia-milking cash grab?
They'll think whatever I tell them to think. Want to be Dr. Doom?
Dr. Doom?
Hey, is there an echo in here or something? Yeah, Dr. Doom, I'll give you your own Avengers film. Hell, I'll even give you two.
This chilling portrayal of corporate arrogance in our source material perfectly captures the mentality that these families successfully challenged. What makes this transformation truly revolutionary is its timing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has generated over $22.93 billion in box office revenue alone. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They represent the value of creative ideas that were once compensated at $20 per page. Imagine creating Iron Man and being told your contribution was worth the same as a pizza order in 1963. The psychological warfare these families endured was immense. Disney's strategy was obvious. Make it so painful, so expensive, so time-consuming to fight that surrender becomes preferable to justice. But they misunderstood something fundamental about creative families. These aren't venture capitalists motivated purely by profit. These are people fighting for their parents', grandparents' legacies. When Marvel sued the heirs using the work-for-hire argument, they essentially claimed that creativity has no ongoing value, that the act of imagination, of birthing cultural icons from nothing, was worth only the initial paycheck. The family's message in response was clear. Our parents created mythos that define modern culture. Their value extends far beyond what corporate America decided to pay them in the 1960s. The ripple effects are already transforming the industry landscape. Warner Brothers, seeing the writing on the wall, has reportedly begun proactive outreach to DC creator estates. Sony, facing its own Spider-Man rights challenges, is reconsidering how it treats creative legacies. Even Universal, which clutches its partial Hulk rights like a security blanket, knows that respect is now a business necessity, not a corporate nicety. The true power of this victory lies in what it symbolizes. These families essentially forced Disney to acknowledge that financial success must be shared with those who planted the seeds of that success. It's a principle that extends far beyond entertainment. In tech, in fashion, in any industry where creativity drives profit, the message is the same: respect the creator or face the consequences. Disney attempted to create a monopoly on pop culture mythology, only to be reminded that mythology belongs to the mythmakers first. What the creator families achieved goes beyond individual compensation. They've created a template for artistic justice in the corporate age. Every future creator entering Hollywood now knows they have ammunition if their legacy is disrespected. Every corporation knows that the cost of dishonoring creators' families has now been demonstrated in public, expensive litigation. The emotional impact cannot be overstated. These are children watching their parents' life work transformed into global phenomena, while being treated as legal obstacles to profit. The settlements represent more than financial resolution. They represent emotional emotional justice for families who've carried the weight of feeling invisible in plain sight. For Marvel fans specifically, there's now a deeper emotional connection to every character on screen. Knowing that these characters' creators' families fought for recognition adds gravitas to every appearance of Iron Man, Spider-Man, or Doctor Strange. These aren't just CGI spectacles, they're the visual manifestations of a real-world battle for creative respect. The transformation in corporate culture doesn't stop at Disney's doorstep. The entire entertainment ecosystem is recalibrating. Streaming services are reconsidering creator contracts. Production companies are building more ethical frameworks. Even theme parks are examining how they honor the artists behind their attractions. The message has been received industry-wide. As new Marvel projects continue production, each carries the DNA of this struggle. Robert Downey Jr. returning as Dr. Doom isn't just a casting decision. It's happening in a world where creator families now have a seat at the table. The power dynamics have shifted irrevocably. The ultimate irony is that by forcing Disney to respect its creative foundation, these families may have actually saved the Marvel brand's soul. Characters have deeper meaning when their creation stories include dignity and recognition. Audiences connect more powerfully when they know the architects of their myths are honored. Looking ahead, the industry faces a new paradigm. The creator families have proven that the little guy can win, that corporate giants can be held accountable, that creative justice is possible. They've transformed the entertainment industry's moral compass, one settlement at a time. This victory resonates beyond Hollywood. Every worker who's ever felt undervalued, every family that's fought for recognition, every artist who's wondered about their legacy, they all see themselves in these Marvel creator families. It's a universal story of standing up for human dignity in the face of corporate indifference. The message is clear and unmistakable. Respect is not negotiable. Creativity has eternal value, and families will fight for justice even against the most powerful corporations on Earth. The Avengers may save the world on screen, but their creators' families have saved something equally precious: the soul of artistic collaboration. This war between the Avengers and Disney isn't new. It's just the latest round in a silent battle that's been raging behind the scenes for years. The legal war behind closed doors. The battleground was set long before the public knew war had been declared. It's 2021. The MCU is riding high on Endgame's success. Disney executives are counting their billions. But in the shadows, copyright termination notices are being filed like grenades thrown into Disney's legal department. The countdown to corporate reckoning has begun, and nobody at Disney is prepared for what's coming. These weren't random families looking for a payday. These were the estates of Marvel's foundational architects, armed with a powerful weapon: the U.S. Copyright Act, the law that says after 35 years, creators can reclaim their work from corporate hands. Disney's response was swift and brutal preemptive lawsuits that screamed, "How dare you challenge our absolute ownership?" Let's talk about what really happened behind those mahogany doors. Steve Ditko, co-creator of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange; Don Heck, the artistic genius behind Iron Man and Black Widow; Gene Colan, who gave us Captain Marvel and Falcon. These names weren't just credits on old comics. They were the architects of what would become a $22 billion movie franchise. Yet Disney's legal strategy treated them like common thieves trying to steal Disney property. The psychological warfare was textbook corporate intimidation. Disney, with its virtually unlimited legal budget, structured its lawsuits to drain the estate's resources. They knew most families couldn't survive a protracted battle, but they miscalculated spectacularly. The legal arguments Disney employed were masterfully cynical. The work-for-hire doctrine was wielded like a blunt instrument. Their position: if you were paid a day rate in 1963, you forfeit all future rights forever. Period. No discussion, no acknowledgement that your creation would become worth billions. Just a cold, corporate, "we paid you what we agreed." But here's what the lawsuits really revealed about Disney's corporate philosophy. In internal documents that came to light, the company's position was that these were annoyances to be eliminated through legal pressure, not creative partners to be respected, not foundation layers of their empire. Annoyances. That word alone cost Disney millions in public relations damage. The estates banded together in what became known as the Creator Coalition. They shared resources, coordinated legal strategies, and most importantly, shared emotional support. While Disney's lawyers processed these challenges as legal puzzles to solve, these families were fighting for their loved ones' legacies. The emotional stakes couldn't have been more asymmetrical. Consider the specific characters at stake. Iron Man had grossed over $8 billion in box office revenue alone. Spider-Man, with Tom Holland's portrayals, added another $6 billion to Disney's coffers, even with Sony's share. Black Widow, Hawkeye, Falcon, each represents hundreds of millions in revenue streams. Yet the families who created these icons had to fight tooth and nail just to be recognized as more than hired hands from the 1960s. The first settlement came in June 2023. Larry Lieber and the estates of Don Heck, Gene Colan, and Don Rico reached agreements with Marvel. The terms were sealed, but industry insiders suggest Disney finally realized that the cost of continued litigation exceeded the cost of fair compensation. The message was sent: challenge us, and you might just win. Steve Ditko's estate held out longer. The Spider-Man co-creators' representatives knew they held the strongest hand. Spider-Man wasn't just another character. He was Marvel's crown jewel, especially after the Sony partnership. The psychological pressure from Disney intensified, but Ditko's estate had learned from watching DC's treatment of Superman's creators. They refused to blink. The final settlement came in December 2023. Terms undisclosed, but the joint filing mentioned amicable resolution, corporate speak for "we paid what they demanded to make this go away." Disney had been forced into a corner: continue fighting and risk setting legal precedent that could affect their entire catalog, or settle quietly and maintain the illusion of absolute control. Behind the scenes, industry lawyers report that Disney's legal teams were rattled. For decades, they'd operated under the assumption that their contracts were bulletproof. The creator lawsuits exposed vulnerabilities in a legal framework built on 1960 S-era understanding of intellectual property. The corporate machinery designed to crush opposition had encountered something it couldn't defeat: generational determination. The parallel legal battle with Interdigital Inc. over patent infringement in Marvel films demonstrates Disney's broader legal challenges. When multiple fronts open simultaneously, even Disney's vast resources become strained. The creator families were part of a larger pattern. Disney's aggressive business model was making enemies faster than it could eliminate them. What these lawsuits really uncovered was the human cost of corporate indifference. Legal documents detailed how creators worked in tiny apartments while Disney executives lived in mansions, how sketches worth billions were sold for grocery money, how the architects of modern mythology died without seeing their creations' true value. The settlements created a new legal framework for the industry. Entertainment lawyers report unprecedented interest in creator-friendly contracts following the Marvel resolutions. Studios are preemptively renegotiating old deals to avoid future lawsuits. The creator estates set a precedent that will echo through entertainment law for decades. Disney's attempt to paint these lawsuits as greedy families seeking undeserved riches backfired spectacularly. Public sentiment sided overwhelmingly with the creators' heirs. Social media campaigns highlighted the stark contrast between corporate profits and creator compensation. The narrative Disney tried to control slipped through their fingers like sand. The legal war revealed something fundamental about modern entertainment economics. The line between creator and corporation wasn't meant to be a chasm. These lawsuits forced acknowledgement that creative collaborations require ongoing respect, not just initial payment. Disney's resistance to this principle cost them far more than proactive fairness would have. As litigation dragged on, internal Disney documents suggested growing concern about brand damage. The company that built its empire on family values was publicly fighting the families of their creative foundations. The irony wasn't lost on the public. Every Spider-Man ticket sold came with questions about whether his creator's family was being fairly treated. The settlements represent more than legal resolution. They mark a turning point in corporate America's relationship with creative labor. If entertainment giants can be forced to respect creator legacies, what about tech innovators, fashion designers, software developers? The precedent stretches beyond Hollywood's borders. For the creator families, the legal journey was both vindication and ordeal. Years of stress, uncertainty, and public scrutiny took their toll, but they emerged victorious, having proven that David can indeed defeat Goliath when armed with justice and determination. Their message to future creators and heirs: your rights are worth fighting for, no matter how powerful the opposition. The closed-door negotiations that preceded the final settlements reportedly involved emotional appeals, not just financial discussions. Disney executives, perhaps for the first time, had to hear directly from families about what their loved ones' creations meant. The corporate machine was forced to confront the human hearts beating behind the balance sheets, the puppet strings of corporate control. Behind every Marvel movie, every Disney Plus series, every theme park attraction lies a shadowy world of corporate manipulation that would make any supervillain proud. The creator battles weren't isolated incidents. They were windows into a systematic approach to creative control that has redefined what it means to own art in the modern age. Welcome to Disney's real magic kingdom, where creativity is commoditized and artists become assets on a balance sheet. Let's expose the machinery. When Disney acquired Marvel in 2009, they weren't just buying characters. They were establishing a template for corporate content control that would reshape the entertainment industry. The VidAngel case from 2016 reveals this strategy perfectly. A small family-friendly streaming service trying to offer filtering technology gets crushed with a $62 million lawsuit. The message: innovation is only allowed when Disney controls it. The beauty of Disney's control mechanism lies in its multi-layered approach. First, buy the company outright. Then use legal warfare to establish dominance. Finally, reshape market expectations to their advantage. The creator families found themselves caught in this exact machinery, fighting not just for compensation, but for the very concept of creator autonomy.
I'd never heard that pretty little face. Do you moisturize?
Sometimes.
You bet your sweet ass you moisturize. There's probably all kinds of moisture on that face.
Thank you.
Gosh, Mr. Stark, you're real handsome.
Shut your goddamn mouth, goofy!
This chilling exchange captures the psychological manipulation at the heart of corporate control, maintaining a friendly facade while wielding absolute power. The 2019 Fox acquisition showcases this strategy at scale. Disney didn't just buy Fox for X-Men and Fantastic Four rights, they eliminated a competitor that might have challenged their narrative control. Even the Department of Justice recognized the antitrust implications. When government regulators feel compelled to intervene, you know the power concentration has reached critical mass. But control isn't just about acquisition, it's about redefining value. Disney masterfully convinced the industry that characters created for $20 per page in 1963 had no ongoing value to their creators. That billion-dollar franchises built on these foundations owed nothing to the architects. It's economic gaslighting at corporate scale. The 2023 antitrust claims regarding streaming services expose another control mechanism. Disney wasn't content with owning content. They needed to control distribution channels. When consumers filed lawsuits alleging onerous contracts that stifled competition, U.S. District Judge Edward Davila validated these concerns. The pattern is clear. Total vertical integration equals total control. Consider the psychological warfare employed against creator families. Disney's strategy wasn't just legal, it was designed to exhaust and demoralize. By treating creative families as legal annoyances rather than valued partners, they signaled a corporate philosophy where control trumps respect. The message to future creators: your work has value, but you don't. The Redbox dispute from 2012 provides another illuminating example. Disney accused a DVD rental company of unfair competition, essentially claiming that even secondary distribution challenged their control. The pattern repeats: any business model not controlled by Disney becomes a target for elimination. What's particularly insidious about this control mechanism is its self-perpetuating nature. By buying critics, influencing media coverage, and shaping industry narratives, Disney creates an environment where challenging their control seems futile. They've convinced many that this level of corporate power is not just normal, but necessary for entertainment production.
Good work out there today, team.
Hulk smash criminals.
Shame about all those apartment blocks, though.
Hulk was preventing future crime.
This dialogue perfectly encapsulates corporate doublespeak. We're heroes for eliminating competition before it threatens us. The creator settlements forced a crack in this control apparatus. For the first time, individual artist families proved they could challenge the machine and win. This wasn't just about money. It was about breaking the psychological hold that absolute corporate control had established over creative industries. Internal documents revealed during litigation exposed Disney's true philosophy. References to creators as contracted workers rather than creative partners showed how thoroughly dehumanized the creative process had become. Artists weren't collaborators in building mythologies. They were temporary employees whose relevance ended with their paychecks. The corporate control extends beyond just financial considerations. Disney has effectively created a mythological monopoly. By controlling both Marvel and potentially DC, had the Warner Brothers deal succeeded, they would have owned the modern American pantheon. These aren't just movie franchises. They're cultural touchstones that shape generational values and understanding. The settlements revealed another layer of control: information manipulation. When terms remained undisclosed and described as amicable, Disney maintained its preferred narrative while likely paying substantial sums behind closed doors. They control not just the content, but the story of the content's creation and ownership. What makes this control mechanism particularly dangerous is its invisibility to casual observers. Audiences see beloved characters and don't question the power structures behind them. The creator lawsuits pulled back the curtain on an industry where corporate control had calcified into creative tyranny. The ripple effects of challenging this control extend beyond entertainment. When creator families proved that corporate power could be questioned and changed, they inspired similar challenges across industries. The message resonated: no corporation, regardless of size or power, is above accountability to the human beings whose creativity fuels their empires. Disney's attempt to paint these legal challenges as threats to the entertainment industry's economic model backfired spectacularly. Instead, it exposed how that model relied on creative exploitation dressed up as business necessity. The settlements forced acknowledgement that sustainable success requires respecting, not erasing, creative origins. The control apparatus Disney built was designed to be impenetrable. Contracts so complex they intimidated challenge. Legal resources so vast they outmatched opposition. PR machinery so powerful it shaped public perception. Yet the creator families found the weak point, the court of public opinion and the principle of creative justice. Disney used to control creative output. We see a cautionary tale about corporate power in the creative industries. The settlements don't just represent legal victories. They represent the beginning of a recalibration where control shifts from absolute corporate power to balanced creative partnerships. Future creators and their families now understand that these strings can be cut, that the puppet can fight back. Disney's empire isn't built on contracts alone. It's built on creative minds that deserve recognition beyond their initial compensation. The creator battles proved that even Disney's sophisticated control system has vulnerabilities when faced with determined opposition and public scrutiny. In the end, the war between the Avengers and Disney wasn't just a legal battle. It was a powerful stand against a system that often treats creativity like a commodity. For years, Disney built its empire on the backs of beloved characters, unforgettable stories, and the brilliance of the people behind them. But when those same people asked for fairness, for recognition, for a piece of what they helped build, they were met with silence, red tape, and closed doors. What started as private negotiations turned into a public reckoning. The Avengers, both on screen and behind the scenes, became symbols of resistance, not to storytelling, but to the corporate machine that tried to control it. Families of creators, lawyers, and even actors stepped up, not just for money, but for legacy, for the right to say, this was ours too. And now, the ripple effects are impossible to ignore. Disney, once seen as untouchable, has had to face real questions about ownership, ethics, and the future of entertainment. Will this lead to a new era where creators have more power? Or will the mouse behind the curtain find new ways to tighten its grip? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. The Avengers may have saved a universe on screen, but off-screen, they just might have saved the soul of Hollywood. What are your thoughts on the Avengers taking a stand against Disney? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more untold truths from behind the scenes, click on the cards on screen now.